Hey everybody, Dave Costello here, founder and CEO of Jetpack Workflow and host of Growing Your Firm podcast. Today is a returning guest. It's Geraldine Carter, and she helps overworked CPAs get their life and the business they've always wanted for themselves. Her clients routinely add multiple five-figure engagements to their books within the first few months of working together while spending less time in the office. She also recently launched her own podcast, Business Strategy for CPAs, which has already surpassed over 100,000 downloads and is ranked in the top 10 podcasts for CPAs. She holds a BS in engineering from Cornell. In her free time, she enjoys mountain biking, wonderful trails, and out there in Ketchum, Idaho, as well as running after her two small kids, which is kind of a segue of a little bit of what we're going to talk about today. But before we kind of go down our own little path here, Geraldine, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, David. It's great to see you again. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So, before we hit record, and it kind of prompted us to say, oh my goodness, let's hit record. We're talking about kids, we're talking about the fall, we're talking about getting out and about, and we came around probably one of most recent favorite parental topics, aside from talking about the sugar bluey, which seems to be very common among parents. We talked about balance bikes, and you're a fan, I'm a fan, you were totally blown away. As a quick intro, what is a balance bike for people that don't have like little rugrats running around their house?
It's a tiny kid-sized bike without pedals.
Okay, perfectly said. And it's been transformative for my son to learn how to ride a bike and for your kiddos too, right?
Yes. Yeah. So what we were talking about was identifying an underserved marketplace, and that this explosion of balance bikes that weren't a thing when you and I were growing up, that, our parents took off the training wheels, but the bike was still 75 pounds. It was made of steel and the brakes
Yeah.
handles were too far away. And it was really difficult to learn how to ride a bike. And so the conversation came up, just for listeners, that why this has exploded is because there are parents who saw a need. I mean, this came about from parents, right? Who saw the need that kids were struggling with learning to ride a bike. And they thought to themselves, can we create a better option? Despite the fact that there are millions of bikes on the marketplace and, hundreds of bicycle companies, they were missing this whole underserved market. And once these people tapped into it, of course it exploded because the product they're providing is so much better.
Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing too is, like I was telling you before the interview, is like I grew up with, there's certain brands of bicycle that I remember growing up with. There was the Schwinn's, there was the Haros, there was something called DK bike company at the time. I mean, but they've been around for a while, and certainly at this point, at least decades. Obviously, Cannondale's kind of or used to be, I guess, premium mountain bikes. And so there's been these companies that have been around for forever. And what were they competing on? They were competing on bikes where you kind of add the tricycles, and then they were making them with like new colors or tassels or baskets. And they were kind of thinking about incremental advancements over the tricycle versus the other company. And we're kind of just relying on good old fashioned brand to carry them. But they kind of missed the fact that parents, for the most part, they don't care about brand. They care about the outcome, which is, I want my kids to learn how to ride a bike safely and as quickly as humanly possible.
Yeah. And my back hurts bending over trying to hold them up. Right. So like
Yeah, right.
the sooner my kid can learn and stop falling on their knees and scraping them, and I have to pick them up and like wipe off a puddle of tears, the better. And what these companies found, what they end up creating was a complete departure, because guess what they did? They interviewed their buyers about what they needed and they designed from there. Right. So this is, I think, what the parallel we're drawing here is accounting firms have been doing things the old fashioned way for such a long time, and it's so entrenched and everybody thinks it's just like this.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of room if you branch off and you interview your buyers about what they want, what they're not getting, the problems that they have, what they actually think they're looking for. And if you can find that, and it's out there, you can find it, because there's so many people who are suffering when it comes to money, that, and their businesses in particular, that once you find that and you tap into it and you just go on a complete departure and start from scratch at the drawing board and go, okay, what if we designed from the solution that they wanted and went backwards from there? what kind of product would we create? And it's a wholly different thing. It still looks like a bike. A balance bike
Yeah.
looks just like a bike, but there's a lot about it that's different that makes it better. And where I think some accounting firms are getting stuck is they're making these incremental improvements, not to make it sound too fluffy, but like adding baskets and streamers and whistles and bells
Yeah.
is not what your buyers are looking for. They're looking for a different approach to solving, to solving their problems.
Yeah, I guess it would be the equivalent of yeah. I guess for firm owners, it's like what's your version of the tricycle that you need to kind of shut off. So if you're debating when you talk about colors and tassels, it's like and believe me, I love brands and I love marketing, but it's like should the website be blue or green? Should I have this gradient fade? And it's like let's
No.
take a step back.
Yeah.
Are you offering the right services to
Right.
make your clients ecstatic to be doing business with you because you're having such an impact for them? And like the amazing thing is you crack this and competing against the big guys and girls doesn't become an issue. We're just talking about all the brands I grew up with. I don't see any of them on the road. I see what's the thing called Woon,
Woom. Yeah.
Woom, right?
WOOM. Yeah.
See Woom, I see Strider. I think that maybe there's one other one. And, guess what? Those kids grow up and they're going to want to keep those bikes because that's the bikes they have the memories with. And it's like much like your clients, their clients are going to grow up, their businesses are going to grow. And if you come in and offer the right outcome, they're going to stay with you for life.
Yeah. And that's the word, offer them the right outcome.
Yeah.
And where there's tons of room to expand in here is what's the outcome that your clients are looking for. And the market that is, I think, underserved, vastly underserved, where there's a ton of potential, is the 7-figure and multi-6-figure business owner who still, despite having had an accountant for years, doesn't understand their money, doesn't understand how much they have, doesn't know where it went, doesn't know how to get more, doesn't know how fast they need it. They don't know when it comes to their money. And that is a big problem for them. And in the accounting space, they tend to approach it from what services can I provide you? But that's not getting anywhere close to understanding your clients and trying to get your head around what problems they have and what solutions you can provide to solve their problems. And at the end of the day, people are buying solutions to problems. So the better you can get at understanding what their actual problems are, the easier your business will become, because you'll design services that solve those problems rather than going in thought loops about, should I put accounts payable in my silver package? It's not the right question.
Yeah. That's such a great way to put it, where you're thinking tactical service packaging versus outcome differences. And so what's an example? So I think we know kind of status quo is to shotgun out a bunch of accounting jargon from a services perspective or do a bunch of compliance work. And I say that somewhat endearingly because we all start somewhere and we all need to get clients and we all need to make some money. And so it's like, I need to do these things and I'm put it up there, and you need to build traction some way. But the goal of this podcast is, how do we get you from where you're at today to making more, working less, and kind of enjoying the firm a little bit more. So to go from status quo, which is hair on fire, very commoditized, you look and act and sound like everybody else. What are some examples, or what have you seen work? You mentioned that underserved niche. What are some how does the language change, and what's some of the packaging shifts that you then see happen?
Okay, so a bunch of questions in there. So let me just take them one at a time. So let me give you an example of what it sounds like to transition from being an accountant who goes out on their own, hangs their shingle. I agree with you. If you need to put Cheerios in your bowl every day, you've got to say yes to clients and bring in the revenue so that you can keep going. That is a phase of just about everybody's business. Everybody walks into a building on the ground floor. So you take on business to keep the lights on. And while you're doing that, you're learning from your clients and learning the industries that they're in. What do you enjoy doing? What do you naturally gravitate toward? What do you find interesting? What kinds of clients do you enjoy working with? What kind of business do you like doing? Do you like inventory? Do you hate inventory? Do you like e-commerce? Do you hate e-commerce? Do you like service-based? Do you not like service-based because it's too dry and boring and not complicated enough? When you're at the outset, at the ground floor, you're just learning about what you enjoy doing. But as soon as you start to get a sense of what you enjoy more, you head in that direction. And at the beginning, if you're an accountant, CPA, you're likely offering tax prep and accounting. So, okay, that's all well and good. That's the foundation. But realize that tax prep is the problem that solves is, what do I owe on what I made? accounting is, where did my money go, right? Those are the
Mm-hmm.
problems that you're solving for your buyers. And relatively speaking, though, are those problems, the solutions to those problems are not as valuable as, how much money do I need to run my business? That's what your business owner is thinking. How much money do I need this month, in the next 3 months? How close am I to bottoming out in my bank account? And then you get up into, if you think about, like, if you can just imagine the pyramid, Maslow's hierarchy, if you will, then you get into you get up into the next level of value, which is, how do I make the money? That's what your business owner wants to know. And then above that, the top of the pyramid, how do I get my time back?
Mm-hmm.
And people will pay for 4 things. They'll pay to look better, right? Fancy car, face cream, lose weight. They'll pay to feel better, mental health, stronger. They'll pay to make more money, and they will pay to get more time back. So if you take that and overlap it on the pyramid, the top of the pyramid is create more time, create more cash for your clients. So ask yourself, what can you do as an accountant within the lanes that you're comfortable in to help your buyers, your business, especially your business owning clients, to create more money and create more time? And when you can do that, then you start getting into value creation, which is this esoteric concept, this nebulous concept that I think is really helpful if we talk about it for your listeners, because if we can help define it for them, they will better understand it, and then they will be able to better capture the value that they create with their prices and convert that into money.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm of the belief that the answer is probably sitting in your existing client base. Like you said, if you have some traction, there's probably somebody there that has the right use of words, what needs to be unpacked for what you need to deliver or the outcome you need to drive. Um,
Let me jump in with an
yeah,
example
go
here,
ahead.
because you asked me for an example, right? And you said exactly what is true, which is, your what you need most likely already exists in your client roster, especially if you have been a CPA for a decade. If you have 400 clients and they're making you crazy for $100,000 of tax prep revenue, you can replace that revenue with 4 clients at $2,100 a month each.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have enough business and enough experience to be a CPA of 10 years and you have 400 tax prep clients, I can guarantee you, excuse me, that in the remaining 200 clients on your client roster, you have 4 in there who are desperate for more access to you, more attention, more guidance, more expertise, and they will absolutely pay for it. But we have to get the CPA out of being super busy in order to be able to help them figure out what that is, figure out the proposal, have a conversation with the client, so on. So example is, I was just having this very conversation with a client yesterday, one of my one-on-one VIPs, who is going from, like, CPA of 25 years, same deal, 750 clients, 500 tax returns, just overwhelmed, stressed out to the hilt, working all the time. And dialing that down, like, how do we dial that down so that we can free up her time? Because she has 50 clients who are, single million, like between 1 and 10 million, who just keep asking her for more. I need your help. I need your help. I need your help.
Yeah.
She's too busy to serve them. So what we need to do is dial down the tax prep stuff so that we can build out the bronze, silver, gold packages for those clients and serve them at a higher level. We just need to transition it. Like, we don't just flip the switches. It takes a couple of months to make the transition. But once you design the packages, you serve your top level clients, you offer a lot more value for much higher prices and less of your own time to deliver.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the punchline. When you're early on, you're saying yes to everything. You end up collecting, and bringing a lot of clients that probably won't serve your future. And I would say categorically, the thing I hear the most is tax prep. Tax prep.
Yeah.
The tax season burns people out, and then you're not, you kind of fall out of love with your firm,
Mhm.
and then you don't have the energy or passion to go to those 50 to then work with them and understand what they need to stay a great client. And they're probably less price sensitive than the tax prep. So how do you conceptually start to wrap your arms around offloading, offboarding, or freeing up capacity away from something like tax prep?
How do you conceptually wrap your arms? Like, you just do
Like,
it.
do you need it? Do you fire the clients? Do you sell off the clients? Do you hire somebody to just take
Gotcha.
that on an hourly basis? Like, how do you You're like, I'm sure somebody listening, whether it's tax prep or some other service, they're like, yes, I would love to get rid of it, but I feel stuck,
Yeah,
So
totally.
what do you
Yeah.
see
Okay.
work?
So what's the approach?
Yeah.
So I think there's the accountants they've been trained for right or wrong. There's a right answer and there's a wrong answer. I totally appreciate it, right? I'm an engineer. I love numbers. I'm with you. And that is accounting, but this is business. And there's more than one way to run a business that works. So we just figure out
Yeah.
what is the right way for that particular client, for that particular CPA. Most of the people that I work with, they desperately want to partition off part of their tax prep and sell it. And I appreciate the sentiment. I really do, because yes, you could get some money out of it, but the opportunity cost of trying to squeeze a little bit of money from that tranche that you have, that bucket of tax prep, the conclusion that they come to time and again is, you know what, it's just not worth it. That's what they said. Like try and wrangle with, how do I sell these? I want to partition them off and sell. But when they start to see when they start to convert their top level clients that are in their top 20% to monthly packages, ongoing, higher value, less effort, less drama, they come to their own conclusion that the 50K or whatever that they might get for selling off their tax prep is just not worth it, because they can make that up in 2 clients. And they're like, you know what? Disengagement letters all around for everybody. Here they go. They're going out Monday.
Interesting. So just let them go, right? And then do you retain the ones that help your 50? So you bundle the business, you bundle a personal return in with the business work?
Yes, most of the people that I work with will retain excuse me, they will retain the returns that are relative, that
Yeah.
go with that business owning client. And it'll just get bundled in. It's like, it's 25K for the year, and that includes 2 business returns, because you have, I don't know, an LLC and an S corp, and your K1s and your spouse's whatever. And if you want me to do your 12-year-old son's tax return because he's employed in the business, okay, fine. Right,
Yeah.
just all gets bundled into the price. But the price for listeners who are still in a la carte pricing,
Yeah.
they might be going, wait, what, how, huh? But what we do is we push the value way out to the right on the number line, so that your price is comfortable for you. It'd be like, oh yeah, it's totally fine. I don't even worry about doing the 12-year-old son's tax return because it takes me 30 minutes. No big deal.
Yeah. To oversimplify this and probably simplify too far, you let me know. I think I'm definitely going to be simplifying this too far, but anecdotally, I feel when clients are pulling firm owners, for more, it feels like the majority of the time. So this is assumption on assumption on assumption. They just want a report that speaks to their industry, to their business, and stop sending me P&Ls and balance sheets. Like, how much of this world would be solved if with like you spend tens of hours, I don't, it could be less, but it's like, here is the perfect report for this type of client, for a nonprofit with less than 2 million of XYZ, for a SaaS company that does this. You kind of create the best, and you can contextualize it for the client, but it feels like so much of the disconnect between clients, the clients you want to serve, and what you offer is just reporting they can read. Do you think am I crazy here, or is there something there?
So reporting they can read. I had this conversation in my mastermind with, so I run a mastermind with CPAs who are making this shift. And somebody brought up, my clients don't understand their financials.
Yeah.
And I was like, this feels like the emperor that has no clothes story that is endemic to the accounting space. That it's like an open secret. Everybody knows that business owners don't understand their financials, yet the accountant or the CPA doesn't take it upon themselves to teach the business owner how to understand their financials. They just assume that the business owner can just go Google it and figure it out or something.
Yeah.
And the business owner doesn't understand their P&L, much less their balance sheet. I get mine. I look at it for half a second just to make sure that everything looks right. But beyond that, that's it. It just gets turned over and used for scratch paper. What matters to people is cash flow. because that's where they're taking their business, and cash is what they need to run their business. So, the P&L is like pretty straightforward. It's just this is going to sound a bit of like a record scratch because I realize it took 4 years to be able to learn how to generate a P&L. But to the business owner, in terms of the value to the business owner, it's, they look at it and they're like, okay, great. Now you put my money and you organized how I spent my money.
Yeah.
And that's not that useful. They want to know how much money they have and how much they can afford to invest in growing their business. So back to your question, if the CPA can, or the accountant can, the CPA or accountant will provide enormous value when they take the time to help their clients understand their money.
Mm-hmm.
And not just the report, the P&L account, like the cash flow report and all that, but all the terminology, the jargon, gross revenue, net profit, cost of goods sold, all these things, even cash, the word cash trips people up because is it paper cash or is it digital cash? Like, what are we talking, right? What do you actually
revenue is the same way, right? Revenue versus cash. Yeah.
So, just to button up my answer here, once you get into a niche, so that you're not generating custom reports for a nonprofit, a manufacturer, and a pharmacy, you systematize that, and then you can spend your time talking with your client about what they don't understand and what they need to know. And that's where your value is, not in the reports.
That's a great way to put it. I think even if you make some kind of fancy report, it does come down to what actions is this business owner going to take, or how will this help them sleep better at night? And so, wow, I didn't realize, our margins are dwindling, for X, Y, and Z. If you're a service-based business, obviously your payroll's gone up and you're just being reactive. You're trying to retain people, you're throwing cash at them, and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize the margin hit was this significant, right? And so that's a useful insight to kind of start peel back, some of these things. And so, yeah, I guess it's, part of it is reporting, but I think you're more accurate here is, what is the assessment? And this could be, I'm just thinking tactically for the audience. I mean, it could be a Loom video. You're just talking through, hey, these are some bright spots. These are some things we should talk about. It could be an email. Here's 3 bullet points. Here could literally be 3 bullet points good, 3 bullet points bad, 3 bullet points ugly, or whatever, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? And you could have fun with it. But I think those are the things that start to really make you stand out. Now, Geraldine, like, our audience, and probably your audience and everybody's audience in this industry, they're incredibly smart people. They have degrees, multiple degrees, certificates. Everything we just said, great bullet points of like budget v actual, like what's scary, what's not scary. Isn't that like conceptually, like it was much harder for them to learn the foundations of accounting, bookkeeping, payroll, tax than writing bullet points in an email. So what's stopping everybody from writing bullet points in an email?
Fear of being different and better.
Fear of being better? What do you mean? Okay, go ahead. How double click, zoom in. What do you mean?
So fear of being different is like, nobody's doing it this way. Oh my gosh. Like there must be something bad if nobody else is doing it this way. Yeah. And fear of being better is like, what if this actually works? And what if I'm actually successful in ways that I've been holding myself back for so long? And what will people say about me if I'm better, right? What if I let go? This comes up a lot. I live in a small town. I live in a community of people, even inside a city. I still live in a community. And if I disengage a bunch of my clients because I'm now serving the top 20%, what are people in my community going to say about me? They're going to gossip about me. This comes up way more often than is being discussed. And it prevents the CPA from letting go because they're worried about the community, how their community is going to talk about them. And if I'm actually better, what are they going to say? Like, she's gone uppity, she's too big for her britches, and these kinds of thoughts. And they're worried about that perception. And so they just put it on other people in their community. They think other people in their community are going to say about it, but it's really their own sort of fear about what they're going to think about themselves. And of course, if that is kind of makes your skin feel crawly, then you're not going to do it because you know that that's the experience that you're going to create for yourself. So the thing is to dig into your own mindset and your own fear of success and how you've defined it for yourself and what's scary about that to you. Let me give you I'll give you a more succinct example. I was working with one of my clients in the mastermind that I have, and I asked her how much money she wanted to make. And she said, oh, like 400 or 500,000 would really be great. And I was like, well, 400 or 500,000, pretend I show up at your door. Like, which one is it? And she's like, I don't know, 400,000. And I was like, come on. If I show up at your door with a $400,000 bill or a $500,000 bill, which one will you pull from my hand? And she said, well, the $500,000 bill, but I don't want to feel greedy. It's that kind of thinking that prevents people from stepping out into their uncomfortable zone. Because if they believe that when they make 500,000, they're going to say about themselves that they are now greedy, then they won't go make 500,000.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's the way that we self-sabotage.
I love it. These are phenomenal points. There is a identity and association people have with money that becomes extremely self-limiting.
Yes.
And there's a variety of reasons, and I think people have to kind of figure out why they've landed on their conclusion. The other one, I thought, you're right, has never been mentioned on the show. So many firms, they serve local patrons, business owners, and to disengage, to offboard them, load them, ideally refer them out to somebody else that would love that. Maybe someone just getting started, and you're like, good luck, have fun. But you can refer them out to somebody reputable. But your business is grown based off of word of mouth, which is based off your clients that live around you. And if you send out 400 or 500, you're like, oh my gosh, they're all going to say X, Y, and Z. David's too good for us. He would only work with us if we're like a big business owner. You like make up all these stories. Yep. I mean,
yeah.
And I feel like the reality is if you have 400 or 500, you probably have 3 that honestly are going to say something no matter what you do. Even if you increase your prices 10%, which you should, they're probably going to be like, oh, David thinks he's so good. He's raising his prices 10% this year. It's like, yep, we haven't raised our prices in 20 years. Like this is, they're always going to have those clients that are going to say that. And then, 497 of them are going to be like, okay, but you're optimizing your entire life for those 3 people that have so many issues with their own life anyways, that they're now controlling yours. It is so backwards. But nobody talks about it. But it's so true. I mean, I'm honing in on this because that is the point, right? You're worried about your word of mouth crashing and your reputation being destroyed.
So I love that we're talking about this because I think this is so under discussed in this space, because I think the tendency as accountants, numbers people, is to think that we're just brains with feet to carry us around. But the reality is that we're humans and we are just like other humans. We didn't get a free pass out of, mindset work. We didn't get the go directly, like skip pass go. And so back to this, like, why do people sabotage their own success? I don't want other people, if I'm successful, I don't want other people to feel bad about themselves.
That's another good one.
Yeah, this is the lunacy, is allowing other people, let's be honest, our pretend, our makeup, our imagination of other people's thoughts.
That's right.
To dictate our own businesses and our own lives. So this is why, so I'm unique in the space of coaching accountants, because as far as I know, anyways, there may be others, but as far as I know, I'm the only one who loops in with like DNA strands, mindset work, and we intentionally surface thoughts that are likely self-sabotaging or just hurdles in your own path that you've decided to put there unbeknownst to you, hurdles in your path to what you actually want. And we surface those and we're like, hey, turns out, unbeknownst to you, you're allowing this thought to run inside your business. You might not have known it was there. We just surfaced it. Do you want it to be there? And usually they're like, oh, no. They're like, okay, what thoughts do you actually want to think instead? Because your thoughts show up in your results every single time. And if that's true, which it is, because you can find it every single time, then we need to go to what results do you want to create? And if you want those results, what do we need to choose to think on purpose? And we get intentional about what to choose to think on purpose that's going to lead to the results that we actually want instead of the ones that we have been getting and haven't figured out how to break.
I love it. If I was, I don't know if you know this, but in my arena of not so economically impactful things I've collected, I have a psychology degree,
Yes.
and probably, you know, that degree I probably learned like 3 or 4 things, but one of the phrases that came up that I've thought about almost weekly is like human beings are not rational creatures, they are
Yeah, no.
rationalizing creatures. So we rationalize
Totally.
something
Totally.
that appears to be then rational. So we're not rational, we're rationalizing creatures. And so you know, and this is where I think, you know, you take an emotion that we just talked about, and then you end up saying something like, well, my clients are different. That sounds great, Geraldine, but my clients are different. You don't understand. You don't understand my town. You don't understand this industry. You don't understand what we're doing. And it's like, is that really true? Is that definitively, objectively true? Or are you rationalizing an insecurity that you have to then surface something that seems rational? Well, I had this, you know, this client that called me the other day and they were really upset I raised their, you know, whatever it may be. And so I think there is a lot here because, like, frankly, we've been doing this pod for, I don't know, a century, and we've talked about some of these things where, you know, how do you package things up? And okay, it's like, why isn't the entire industry doing it? And I think you hit the nail on the head, is because there's a lot of, I guess the word I would use, head trash going on. There's a lot of
Mhm.
things you've collected
Yeah.
that you need to dump out or throw in the recycling bin, see if somebody else picks them up. I don't know, but get it out of your head, you know.
Yeah.
Well, we covered
I
a
was
lot of
listening.
ground. That's pretty heavy stuff. Um, you know, if to kind of you know, round things out here, um, so we started by talking about value creation for clients and how you can drive better work-life balance and profitability by creating a package that leads to an outcome they're really excited about, that gives you a lot of price elasticity when you do so. And what's stopping people a lot, we really dug into mindset, which is really something I don't think we've talked too much about on the show. If this has resonated with a listener and they're like, "Oh my gosh, Geraldine hit it on the head," what is the best way for them to connect with you, download your materials, you know, whatever it may be? How can somebody reach out and get into your ecosystem?
Yeah. So I was just going to say to your last thing is that we make emotional decisions and backfill with logic,
Yeah.
especially for this crowd, right?
Yeah.
So if this is resonating for people and you know this sounds like maybe it's you, there was one thing you said in there about raise your prices 10%, and raising your prices 10%, like that will keep you at the status quo because that's where inflation is.
Yeah.
But really your prices for top level services can afford to go up for top level services by 2 to 3x. You had Lauren Fogelman on. I completely agree with what she said. And same with Reza Huda. You had a great interview with him. We're so aligned in so many ways. There's so much more value for you to create. We have to get you out of busy, and
Mhm.
we have to get you believing, back to mindset, that it is good for your clients when you raise your prices.
Mhm.
And I have for people who want to find out more, I have 2 PDF downloads that are really useful for people who are in this space. It is repricing season. Now that
Mhm.
tax season is over. And those 2 resources are at my website. It's not She Thinks Big Coaching anymore. It's GeraldineCarter.com/downloads. And they can get 7 ways to raise your prices for your existing clients, because there are 4 bad ways and 3 good ways. It's good to know the difference. And 6 reasons raising prices is good for your clients. So GeraldineCarter.com/downloads. And if people want to, the other place they can go is my podcast, Business Strategy for CPAs.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming back on. For folks that couldn't jot down all the notes and comments and questions and tactics we were talking about today, we're going to do a full summary at jetpackworkflow.com/blog. That's jetpackworkflow.com/blog. We'll link it up. We'll link up the guests you just mentioned, as well as your website and all the downloadables you just talked about. If you enjoyed the show, leave a 5-star review. It helps us get the word out. And if you really enjoy this, you're like, oh my gosh, you cracked the code on some of the beliefs I've been having, share it with a fellow firm owner that needed to hear some of this material today. Geraldine, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you, David. It was great to be with you.